Hello, all you freedom-loving people. Welcome to another episode of Front Page. I'm your host, Scott Cameron Goulet. Mark Zuckerberg is being sued again by the DC Attorney General for spying on Facebook users and for allowing Cambridge Analytica to collect details on as many as 87 million users. Dr. Memet Oz is less than 1,000 votes ahead of David McCormick in the Pennsylvania Republican primary. Meanwhile, McCormick is suing to have ballots counted that do not have the handwritten dates on the envelopes. JP Morgan estimates that the economy could shrink between $5 trillion and $9 trillion by the end of the year, with billionaires being the biggest losers between 2020 and 2021. A food insecurity expert warns of a wheat shortage, but she doesn't think that this is caused by the Russia-Ukraine war, as the Biden administration alleges. Even though the FBI Cyber Division took only one day to dismiss Michael Sussman's claims, alleging that there was a connection between the Trump team and the Alpha Bank, the Chicago FBI office just couldn't let it go. Former acting U.S. Attorney General Matthew Whitaker weighed in on Sussman's trial. He also thinks that Peter Strzok should be the next on the list for investigating a sitting president. Okay, let's get into it. The Attorney General of the District of Columbia in Washington announced on Monday that he is suing Mark Zuckerberg as the chief executive of Facebook parent company Meta for Zuckerberg's failure to protect Facebook users in a scandal that leaked their personal information. DC Attorney General Karl Racine filed a civil lawsuit against Zuckerberg in DC Superior Court, alleging that the company spied on users' discussions on Facebook and they allowed the British political consulting firm Cambridge Analytica to collect details on as many as 87 million Facebook users without permission. The data was allegedly used to influence the 2016 presidential election. Racine said in a statement, "The evidence shows Mr. Zuckerberg was personally involved in Facebook's failure to protect the privacy and data of its users, leading directly to the Cambridge Analytica incident." Racine also said, "This unprecedented security breach exposed tens of millions of Americans' personal information, and Mr. Zuckerberg's policies enabled a multi-year effort to mislead users about the extent of Facebook's wrongful conduct." The lawsuit is based on information gathered by Racine in a previous lawsuit filed against Facebook. In 2018, Racine sued Facebook over the same incident. In the current lawsuit, Racine claims Zuckerberg should be held personally liable for the data breach because he oversaw Facebook's day-to-day operations and he opened the social media platform up to third parties. Zuckerberg so far has avoided facing personal legal repercussions over his involvement in various Facebook scandals. In the 2018 lawsuit, Racine's office was trying to get Zuckerberg to testify under oath, but the company did not put him on the stand. Racine is seeking to have Zuckerberg pay damages and to be punished, which could be determined at trial. It is unclear whether Racine's lawsuit will continue under the next Washington Attorney General. Racine has said that he will not run for re-election. His term ends January 2nd, 2023. Pennsylvania Republican Senate primary candidate David McCormick filed a lawsuit on Monday seeking to compel the court to count mail-in ballots without handwritten dates on the envelopes, which are an issue in Pennsylvania. The lawsuit was filed late on Monday. Dr. Memet Oz is less than 1,000 votes ahead of David McCormick. Most precincts are reporting that they are still counting votes 6 days after the election. Ruling in a separate case late on Friday, the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals said the state election law's requirement of a date next to the voter's signature on the outside of the return envelope was immaterial. The lawsuit emerged from a county judicial election last year, and the three-judge panel said it found no reason to refuse counting the ballots in that race. Hours after the judgment was issued on Friday, McCormick's campaign sent a letter to Pennsylvania's 67 counties arguing that undated ballots should be tallied. In a statement issued last week, Oz's campaign manager, Casey Contreras, said the McCormick legal team is following the Democrats' playbook, and it will oppose the McCormick legal team's request that election boards ignore both Pennsylvania's Supreme Court and state election law and accept legally rejected ballots. The race between Oz and McCormick will go on to an automatic recount if it comes down to a 0.5 percentage point or less, unless the runner-up declines it. With the economic downturn so far this year, J.P. Morgan Chase estimates that the nation's wealth will shrink by at least $5 trillion, and it could reach $9 trillion by the end of the year. U.S. families and businesses over the past 2 years through the COVID-19 pandemic still accumulated huge wealth. The Federal Reserve Board estimates that from early 2020 to 2021, the United States households would earn $38 trillion from the cumulative total of a record-breaking $142 trillion. While the nation is learning to live with the virus and is restoring the expenses from before the pandemic, it is surprising to see an economic downturn and the national wealth shrink so much and so quickly. The S&P 500 index has fallen 18% this year. The NASDAQ 100 index has shrunk 27%. And the Bloomberg index of cryptocurrencies has fallen 48%. Billionaires were the biggest losers between 2020 and 2021. Bloomberg reports that the value of billionaires has fallen by nearly $800 billion since its peak as stocks, cryptocurrencies, and financial assets have plummeted. Bloomberg Billionaires Index shows that the daily value of the world's 500 richest people since November last year lost $1.6 trillion US dollars. The most deeply affected are US billionaires, since the peak of wealth has been reduced by $797 billion US dollars. The world's richest person, Tesla founder Elon Musk, suffered the most. His value in November last year was more than $340 billion. It shrank 41%, or $139.1 billion. The wealth of the world's second richest, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, shrunk 39%, a loss of $82.7 billion since the peak of his wealth. Billionaires are having a tough time, not to mention the average person. Soaring interest rates disrupted the housing market, affecting the middle and working class household assets. Chief economist of Oakworth Capital Bank, John Norris, said, "After a dreamlike year in 2021, it hurts to return to normal, which will feel worse than it actually is." To offset the 40-year high inflation, the Federal Reserve suggested that the nation curb spending, even if it comes at the cost of an economic slowdown. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell and his colleagues expect a sluggish economy this year, which some policymakers have called the Great Wealth Drop of 2022. Food insecurity expert Sarah Manker warned that the world has only about 10 weeks of wheat supply left in storage. However, she doesn't think this food shortage is caused by the Russia-Ukraine war, as the Biden administration alleges. She said that the conflict in Ukraine simply added fuel to a fire that was long burning. Manker told the United Nations Security Council, "A crisis we detected tremors from long before the COVID-19 pandemic exposed the fragility of our supply chains." Last week, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken alleged that Moscow is using wheat as a weapon of war. Sarah Manker is the CEO of Grow Intelligence, which is an agricultural analytics firm. She said, "I share this because we believe it's important for you all to understand that even if the war were to end tomorrow, our food security problem isn't going away anytime soon without concerted action." Manker noted that droughts across the world, fertilizer shortages, and other weather issues are contributing to wheat shortages. Manker explained that we are experiencing the lowest grain inventory levels the world has ever seen. This is happening while access to fertilizers is highly constrained, and while droughts in wheat-growing regions around the world is the most extreme that it has been in over 20 years. corn and other grains are also affected. She also indicated that the situation today is worse than those experienced in 2007 and 2008. This is a reminder of just how important our farmers are to our quality of life. Before we move on to the latest update on the Michael Sussman trial and the strange things that NASA has mentioned happening in the universe, please like and share this video to help us spread the truth. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, please double check to make sure that you are still subscribed. Okay, let's get back into it. We have mentioned in previous videos that the FBI Cyber Division dismissed the allegations within 1 day after Michael Sussman handed in materials on the supposed secret communications between the Trump Organization and the Russia-based Alpha Bank. However, the FBI Chicago field office opened a full investigation, not just a preliminary one. The FBI headquarters launched a Trump-Russia probe in July 2016. Why is that? FBI agent Ryan Gaynor testified during Sussman's trial on May 23rd. Gaynor said that knowing that Sussman was being paid to provide the info would have affected the decision on whether to open the Chicago investigation and the decision to designate the investigation as close hold, which means the field agents are not informed of the source's identity. But what is puzzling is that after Gaynor learned that the source of the information was Sussman and that he was working for the Democratic National Committee, he ultimately decided that it wasn't necessary to lift the close hold designation. He said that the FBI couldn't get close to the DNC anyway due to its policy of not interfering in elections. Sussman's lawyers noted that it is Gaynor alone claiming the investigation was close hold, which means it was he himself who was withholding Sussman's identity from the field agents. Gaynor didn't deny it. He argued that he thought that the field agents would be biased against Sussman if he disclosed to them Sussman had ties to the DNC. Whether or not this reasoning holds water, one thing is for sure: agents in the Chicago office didn't know that the allegation came from somebody who was on the Clinton campaign's payroll. Gaynor was himself a target of the Durham investigation before being reverted back to his status as a witness. The document detailing the opening of the Chicago probe claims that the allegation from Sussman was referred to the Bureau by the Department of Justice. There is no other document that supports this claim of collusion. Scott Hellman, a supervisory special agent with the FBI Cyber Division, testified earlier in the trial that he wasn't aware of such a referral from the DOJ, and he said he would have absolutely found it strange if the Chicago field office thought that the allegation came from the DOJ. But of course, the allegation did not come from the DOJ. It originated from the Clinton campaign. Former acting U.S. Attorney General Matthew Whitaker on Monday weighed in on the trial of Michael Sussman. He told Mornings with Maria on Fox Business Network that the trial is bringing to light how the Steele dossier and misinformation about then-candidate Donald Trump all started. Whitaker stated, "Well, the trial is really going to do two things. One is it's holding Michael Sussman accountable for sharing this false narrative, this false story generated by the Hillary Clinton campaign, and so he is being held accountable under the rule of law." Whitaker added, "But most importantly is, I think that Durham is telling the story as to how this all started, and ultimately, to your point, time and time again, whether it was the Clinton campaign knowing it was false or the FBI determined it was false, it continued to march on." Whitaker believes that more people should be held accountable. He named Peter Strzok, a former U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation agent. Strzok was the chief of the counter-espionage section, and he led the FBI's investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of a personal email server, which we all know ended up with no charges. Whitaker affirmed, and Peter Strzok really, I think, is the next person who needs to be held accountable. I mean, he is the one who ultimately decided that there was something to this story and decided that the FBI should ultimately launch an investigation into a sitting president. CNBC reported on Monday that online booking platform Airbnb is shutting down operations in China, according to two sources. The company plans to tell its domestic employees in China as early as Tuesday morning in Beijing. All of Airbnb's mainland China listings will be pulled by this summer. Airbnb officially launched its mainland China operations in 2016, and it has been facing stiff competition from its domestic Chinese counterparts. Sources say that the online booking business is already costly to operate and that the environment is complex. The pandemic has further exacerbated these issues and impacted the economics. The lodging revenue within China has only accounted for about 1% of Airbnb's overall revenue over the past few years. Airbnb co-founder Nathan Blecharczyk has remained in China to promote the brand. Airbnb has seen an uptick in long-term rental business this year as people around the world begin to travel again and resume production and business. This includes the flexible work arrangements that many employers introduced during the pandemic. But business in China for Airbnb has been much slower to recover since the Chinese Communist Authorities' COVID-19 policy has constrained people's mobility. Starbucks, the world's largest coffee chain, announced on Monday that it will withdraw from the Russian market. Starbucks joins fast food giant McDonald's, marking the end of some of the West's top commercial brands in Russia. Starbucks has been operating in Russia for nearly 15 years with 130 stores and nearly 2,000 employees. Following the Russian military invasion of Ukraine in late February, Starbucks closed its stores in Russia in early March, and it suspended all local business activities, including the shipment of the company's products to Russia. Starbucks said it will continue to support its local employees, including paying their salaries for 6 months. NASA notes that something strange is happening to our universe, which is expanding far faster than expected. As early as the 1920s, American astronomer Edwin P. Hubble and others discovered that galaxies beyond our own are not stationary. These galaxies were moving at an uneven and increasing rate. The farther a galaxy is from Earth, the faster it is moving. Since then, scientists have been trying to understand this phenomena and to measure the speed of this expansion. For years, astronomers have used information from the Hubble Space Telescope and other telescopes in order to understand the rate of expansion of the universe. But as this information has become more accurate, astronomers have discovered something very strange, which is that the rate of expansion of the universe now and just after the Big Bang is not the same. The reason for this discrepancy remains a mystery. The Hubble Space Telescope actually measured the expansion of the universe faster than astronomers had predicted with their models. The observations also show that other galaxies are accelerating away from our galaxy. Adam Rees, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist and astrophysicist at the Space Telescope Science Institute and Johns Hopkins University, noted that the probability of astronomers being wrong is only 1 in 1 million. This means that the accelerated expansion of the universe is much more complex than is understood, and it still needs further study. Truly, there is so much more for us to learn about this magnificent universe that we call home. Next, I want to take a moment to thank you all for your support of Front Page. Your donation and your membership subscription are really helping us to tell you the truth. Every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. We've heard from many of our viewers that they don't get notifications of our videos anymore from YouTube, so please follow us on Telegram, Gab, and Getter for the latest updates. Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth. Again, thank you for watching Front Page, and we will see you next time.